Welcome to Wealth Hustle 247 podcast, your trusted guide to financial literacy, business innovation, and entrepreneurial success. Learn how to grow your wealth, make informed decisions, and turn your ideas into profitable ventures.
Welcome to today's episode. We're diving into the key lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This groundbreaking book by Robert Kiyosaki contrasts two different mindsets about money and wealth building. Join us as we explore how these insights can reshape your approach to financial success.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know how there are just some books that you hear about everywhere you turn?
I know exactly what you mean.
It's like you can't escape it.
Right,
well,
yeah.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one of those for me. It feels like every time the topic of money or success comes up, someone mentions this book.
It's true. Rich Dad, Poor Dad has been a mainstay in the financial self-help world for decades now.
Yeah.
And with that popularity, it's definitely generated a lot of conversation, both for and against it.
Definitely a lot to unpack, and that's what we're here to do today. We're not going to get to everything, of course.
Right.
But we are going to take you through some of the key ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad using this awesome YouTube summary that we found from Escaping Ordinary. It's a really cool channel, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
You should check it out.
Definitely.
So consider this like a crash course in Rich Dad, Poor Dad thinking.
I like it. A crash course.
And if any of this really sparks your curiosity, don't worry, we'll link to the full video and the book itself in the show notes.
Absolutely, because there's a lot to dive into.
So the book kicks off with this whole idea of two dads, a rich dad and a poor dad.
And it's not really about their actual wealth, like their income or their net worth. It's more about how they think about money, their mindsets.
Yeah, it's like their philosophy about money. So you've got the poor dad, and this is actually Kiyosaki's own father.
Right.
And he kind of represents that more traditional path.
Yeah. Go to school, get good grades, get a secure job.
Yeah, like climb that corporate ladder.
Exactly.
Then you have the rich dad, who was actually the father of a friend of Kiyosaki's.
Okay.
And he dropped out of school and found success through entrepreneurship.
And this is where it gets interesting, because I don't think Kiyosaki is saying that one path is better than the other.
No, not at all.
It's more about just being aware of how these beliefs that we kind of inherit growing up about money, how those beliefs influence our relationship with finances.
It's about awareness, like hitting that pause button and really examining what we believe about money, almost like we've been on autopilot.
Exactly. And if we're not aware of those subconscious beliefs, then we can't really choose whether or not they're serving us.
And this really comes out in how each dad views assets and liabilities, which is a big one.
It's huge. And it's something that you see quoted all the time from this book.
Yeah, assets versus liabilities. It's one of those things that once you learn it,
it kind of changes how you look at everything.
It really does.
So like the classic example is a house.
Okay.
A lot of people think, my house, that's my biggest asset. But Kiyosaki says, hold on, is it really?
Because
if you're paying a mortgage every month and property taxes and all the upkeep, is it actually putting money in your pocket or is it taking money out?
it's definitely taking money out every single month.
Right. So he challenges that whole traditional view. He's like, maybe that's actually a liability.
Yeah, we're so used to thinking about a house as this ultimate goal, part of the American dream.
Yeah, you own it, but...
But it could be holding us back if we're not careful.
Exactly. Now, to be fair to Kiyosaki, he's not saying never buy a house.
Right.
It's more about looking at it from a cash flow perspective. An asset, in his mind, is something that puts money in your pocket month after month, whether you're working or not.
Like rental properties.
Yeah, rental properties are a classic example in the Rich Dad framework.
Right.
Or dividend stocks. Businesses that pay you a share of their profits just for owning a piece.
Or even like creating an online course.
Oh, yeah.
Like you do the work once up front and then...
And then it's out there.
Yeah, it's like passive income.
Exactly. Passive income. It's all about creating those systems that generate money.
It's like building a machine that works for you instead of you working for it.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And, that actually ties into another one of his big points. The idea that the rich don't work for money.
Yeah.
Right.
I gotta be honest. Whenever I hear that one, it throws me for a loop.
I get it, because it sounds counterintuitive. But what he means is they're not trading their time for a paycheck, like in a traditional job. They're focused on building those businesses, those investments, those systems that generate that passive income, even while they're off doing other things.
So it's more about, like you said earlier, working smarter,
Yeah.
not necessarily just harder. It's about putting in the effort to build something that ultimately works for you even when you're not working.
You got it. Now, this doesn't mean everyone needs to quit their job and start a business tomorrow.
Right.
But it's about exploring those possibilities, right? Maybe it's a side hustle. Maybe it's learning about index funds or dividend stocks.
Yeah, and speaking of learning Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it really stresses the importance of educating yourself about money, right? Like becoming financially literate.
Big time. It's like he's saying traditional education kind of drops the ball when it comes to teaching us about money.
Yeah, and then we're just kind of thrown out into the world.
Exactly. We'll have to figure it out on our own.
And then we're bombarded with all this financial advice from like everywhere. I mean, you've got social media, you've got news articles, you've got like that one friend who's suddenly a stock market expert.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, how do you even know where to start?
Right. It's overwhelming. And that's why I think that message of taking ownership of your financial education is more relevant now than ever.
Totally.
Like, it's not just about knowing how to balance a checkbook or whatever. It's about, like you said, being able to think critically about all the financial noise out there.
Yeah, so you can make smart decisions for yourself.
Exactly. Decisions that actually align with your personal goals, not just whatever the latest trend is.
So instead of following someone else's financial playbook, you're creating your own.
100%. That's the real power, right?
Yeah.
Kiyosaki is basically saying you are in control of your financial destiny, but you got to be proactive. You got to learn the rules of the game if you want to win.
Love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive on Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you had to pick one big takeaway, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it comes back to that idea that financial success isn't about luck. It's not about being born into wealth.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the rules of the money game and then using those rules to your advantage.
And maybe even breaking a few of those rules, right? Like the ones that no longer serve us.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to unlearn some of the old stuff to make room for something new, a new way of thinking.
Yeah, embrace a little bit of that rich dad mindset.
I like that. So here's a little challenge for everyone listening. Ask yourself, what's one small step I can take this week, right now, to start thinking a little more like the rich dad?
Ooh, I like that. Little homework assignment.
Yeah, maybe it's finally setting up that budget you've been putting off. Maybe it's reading up on different investment strategies. Just something to get the ball rolling.
That's perfect. Permission to get curious, challenge your assumptions, and start building that financial future that you want.
Because remember, this deep dive, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you really want to go deep, definitely check out that Escaping Ordinary YouTube video and, of course, Rich Dad, Poor Dad itself.
We'll have the links for you in the show notes. All right, that's it for today. Until next time, happy learning, everyone.
That's it for today's episode of Wealth Hustle 247. Be sure to follow, like, comment, and share with others. Keep pushing toward your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode.